I pay my thanks to United States Institute of Peace and its president, executive president, and my brother, Dr. Kamarul Huda, and all audience who are joining me in this session. I would like to start my talk from the first point, and that is the concept of jihad. There are certain terms, certain words which have been hijacked by the extremists and terrorists, and they misinterpret them and try to radicalize the Muslim youth in particular, and other Muslims in general, through radicalistic and extremistic wrong interpretation of those concepts and wrong interpretation of some of the verses of Quran and traditions of the Holy Prophet, taking them out of the context and misusing and misapplying them. That's why through their efforts, the youth who are accessible to them, or those who are influenced by them, they try that they may parrot some verses and some traditions, and they may frequently use some words of jihad, of martyrdom, of khilafah, of Islam, Darul Harb, Darul Islam, these kind of terms. Putting them together, then they have developed an ideology with a wrong claim that this ideology is Islam, or this originates from the text of Quran or text of the tradition of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So crux of our talk today is that this claim is totally a wrong accusation against Islam. This is baseless, and this ideology of terrorists and extremists has absolutely no link, no connection, no legitimacy with Islam and Islamic teachings and the classical interpretations of Islamic authorities. After this brief introductory talk, I don't like to go into the matters which are commonly known, and I would be leaving certain things for you, taking the concept of jihad. When this word is uttered or it is heard, an image of killing, fighting, combating, automatically, because of their wrong activities and wrong interpretations, this image emerges in the minds. My first point, which I am going to elaborate, is that the word jihad and the term jihad does not include any kind of meaning of killing or torturing or fighting or combating. This word is free from these meanings. It means just an extreme exertion, effort, struggle for any good cause. If we go into the Quranic studies, we find there are 35 verses of Holy Quran in total, which include the commandment of jihad or the word of jihad in any form of its derivatives. It can be jahada, it can be jahid, it can be jahada, it can be yujahidun, any derivative. There are a total of 35 verses which include the commands of jihad, commandments of jihad. So out of these 35 verses, 31 verses have absolutely no mentioning of fighting anywhere. I mean, neither in the text nor in the context. There are three ways of determining the meaning or implication or significance of a particular commandment through a verse. Either you understand some commandment or teaching or injunction through the text of the verse, or you try to understand that concept through the context, or you try to understand sometimes through historical context. What were the historical circumstances when this commandment was revealed? At what time, which date, what year, in which particular situation, and what was the intention? So historical background. Text, context, or historical background. 31 verses out of 35 which mention the commandment of jihad, they have no mentioning directly or indirectly, no mentioning of fighting and combating. Even I'm talking of a defensive warfare or a lawful and just war. No, absolutely there is no mentioning of fighting either. Number two, I would like to explain one thing even before this point, keeping in mind, and that is that there is not a single verse in Holy Quran, starting from the first chapter, ending up to the last chapter of Wan-Nas, Al-Fatiha to Wan-Nas. I have not been able to find a single verse in the Holy Quran where self-defense was prohibited, taking up arms was prohibited, standing up for your own resistance against oppression was prohibited. There was no permission for self-defense. Even at that particular time, the verses of jihad were there. I would just quote the reference for your further studies. Those verses which were revealed in Holy Quran in Meccan time, is one of them is Al-Furqan Surah, verse number 52. Second, Surah Ankabut, verse 6. Third again, Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 8. Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 69. And chapter Luqman, verse 15. I just quote as a sample one or two out of them. Holy Quran says, وَمَنْ جَاهَدَ فَإِنَّمَا يُجَاهِدُ لِنَفْسِهِ. And it was stated, وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. You should perform a very big jihad. So performance of very big jihad, a great jihad, this was commanded by Almighty God in Makkah, when Muslims were not allowed to touch any arm, or they were not allowed to stand up for their self-defense, or they were not allowed to resistance against oppression. Even then the commandments of great jihad were there in Makkah. This is an evidence more than enough, and very ample evidence to establish the fact that jihad does not necessarily include even the war of defense, although it is included in the broader term of jihad, but it does not necessarily mean. Jihad was revealed much more earlier than the command of the permission of self-defense war and the lawful defensive wars were granted. So, if this is the case, then we have to understand, then what does jihad mean? When this was the commandment in Meccan period, where your resistance against oppression was prohibited and you are not allowed to raise the arms. So what was the meaning of jihad in Quran? And what does the same meaning will continue till today? So jihad has, as far as its meanings are concerned, it has 5 dimensions of its meaning. The first meaning, and that is the greatest of the jihad actions, the great jihad, the biggest jihad, it has spiritual dimension. The jihad has its spiritual dimension. It is known as jihad bin nafs, and that is your struggle for self-purification against it is a fight against your evil wishes of your lower self, to purify your inner self, to make a person a good moral and ethical personality, who could work for the sake of Allah, who could get rid of arrogance, of greed, of lies, of aggressive attitudes, negative propensities, and who could work for the betterment of humanity and the society, and for himself too. This is purely spiritual dimension, no link with arms. Second dimension of its meaning is intellectual dimension, academic and intellectual. In intellectual dimension of jihad, the word ijtihad has emerged. And ijtihad and mujtahid is a scholar, is a great jurist, an expert of juristic sciences who can derive and deduct the legal values and meanings from the old bases, and who can apply according to the changing and newly emerging situations of modern times. So mujtahid and ijtihad from jihad means connecting the old with the past with the future through academic and intellectual and juristic efforts, purely an academic and juristic work. It is jihad bil ilm and jihad bil fiqh. Third is social dimension, and this is jihad bil amal. This can be political, this can be social, this can be cultural, this can be educational. Anyway, this is for the social reforms of the society, to purify the society from social evils, to eradicate the corruption from the society, and all kind of evil attitudes of human behavior, individually at first level and collectively at this third level. So these works of social reforms and political reform, democratic struggles, political struggles, peaceful struggles, all come within the range of ambit of jihad bil qawl, al-amr bil maroof wa nahi anil munkar, to promote the good and to abstain from evils. This is social dimension. Third is jihad bil mal. It is financial dimension of the word jihad, concept jihad. This is just an act of charity. And Quran has emphasized on particularly two areas of jihad. The first, jihad bin nafs, the purification of self, lower self, spiritual one, and the socio-economic one, the financial. Most emphasis in Quran has been given on these two. And there is a full-fledged surah, a chapter of Quran, which explains this concept. And it is said that even negation of act of charity is negation of deen, of wholesome of the deen. Spending the money to remove economic deadlock of the poor, spending your own economic resources to provide the facility to alleviate the poverty from the society, the work which is being done by the charitable organizations in the Western countries, the Muslim countries, by the UNO, whatever, to help humanity out and take it out from the financial crisis, for struggle for equitable distribution of wealth and to provide them all facilities and privileges of the life as human beings. This is jihad. So Quran says, أَرَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمَ وَلَا يَحُدُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. Have you seen a person, O Holy Prophet, have you seen the person who totally rejects deen of Islam? The rejecter or nullifier of the deen. Have you seen that person? Then Quran answers, the person who nullifies, the person who rejects the deen, religion of Islam, is the one who does not do anything for the betterment of orphans, who does not provide food to the orphans, who does not work to alleviate the poverty in the life of the poor, yatama and masakin, the orphans and the poor communities. Those people who do not work for their economic betterment and welfare, these are the people who are nullifier or rejecter of the faith. So this act of charity, jihad, this is jihad bil mal. This is one of the best jihads. And the fifth dimension is the defensive dimension. Fifth one. Only that is the defensive dimension, where if you are attacked, and of course no need to explain it, then there is a war of self-defense, a defensive war. As a student of law and as a humble student of international law, I can declare this fact with full confidence that as far as my studies throughout my life are concerned, I have not seen a minor difference between the definition of a lawful war or jihad or qital, just war, which is known as qital, according to Islam, and the definitions and conditions given by the UN Charter. It is exactly the same concept, same definition with same conditions. No difference. The only difference is the term, the word. The jihad or qital is the word in Arabic language, and we say just wars and lawful wars right from the time of Aristotle till today's UN Charter's time. Throughout the history, concept of just wars and lawful wars has been existing continuously in every era of human history. The same is the concept now, according to Islam. We will come to that, but this is the defensive dimension of jihad. When Holy Prophet ﷺ migrated to Medina, 2 verses were revealed in order to provide the permission of lawful self-defense war. Lawful and just defensive wars, 2 verses. First was revealed in first year of migration. So these are 2 where the commandments of fighting are available, the basic commandments. Remaining are addition to that, further explanation, further interpretation. They are further clauses, basic 2 articles which provide the permission of fighting. One is in Surah Al-Hajj, verse number 39, and chapter number 22. Chapter 22, verse 39. The words are, أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. It is stated that now the permission is granted to take up the arms and to fight those who have already imposed war on you, because you have been wronged, you have been oppressed, because an act of aggression has been committed to you. So now today the permission of armed resistance for your self-defense is given to you. This is the first verse. Look into the words. Uzina, permission is granted. Lillazina, only to those yuqataluna, against whom an aggression and war has been already imposed. And why? بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا, because they have been an act of aggression, an act of militancy, act of terrorism, act of killing, act of attack has been already committed on them. So now they can resist for their self-defense. This is the foundational article of jihad. In the meaning of qital, I mean the self-defense, not the 4 meanings I have already explained. This was the first year of Hijrah, because the state had come into existence. This is a very interesting point which I would elaborate here, and maybe very few scholars would have mentioned this, but I have not seen in any book, any scholar. This is a very significant point. Since when Holy Prophet was in Mecca, there was no Islamic state there. That's why nobody was allowed to stood up with for armed conflict, to resist with arms. When he migrated to Medina, Islamic State came into existence. He was head of the state through the constitution when he made the alliance with the Jewish tribes and their allies, and he was selected or appointed as the head of the state, and a constitution of Medina was given. As-Sahifa, first constitution. Since he was the head of the state and state was already in power, that's why standing up for resistance against the oppression was allowed. And defensive war was allowed, because state was already there. So this difference of Meccan and Medinan period explains the fact that in any case, even if it is defensive war, no person as individual, no community collectively, no organization, not a community. On their own, they cannot even wage a defensive war. War is a privilege or prerogative or a lawful right of the state. No organization, no person has an authority or privilege to wage wars and declare its terroristic acts as jihad. So it was not done by Holy Prophet and his companions. How can it be legalized or it can be legitimate for organization existing nowadays, claiming their criminalistic and terroristic activities as jihad? This is totally against the teachings and the practice and conduct of Holy Prophet. Second verse was revealed, which is the foundational second article, foundational article of jihad in the meaning of qital, the word qital, lawful, just, defensive war. And that was again in Surah Al-Baqarah, this is Medinan chapter, verse number 190. Al-Baqarah chapter number is 2, verse number 190. Again we can ponder into the words. The words are waqatilu. Sometimes the people, they just take up few words from a verse. Sometimes they take the verse out of the context and they use specific words for their own meanings. There may be some Muslim terrorists, or there may be some of the Western scholars or Orientalists who have not full grasp and comprehension on the subject. Both sides. So Quran says, وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. This is the second foundation, 2 verses. Quran says this was revealed in 7th year of migration. It means now already 20 years had passed after the promulgation of Islam and after the announcement of his pronouncement of his prophethood and after the starting of the commencement of revelation of Quran. 13 years of Meccan, 7 years of Medinan period. 20 years had passed when the command of defensive war was revealed. Only 3 years were left of Holy Prophet's life. Command for defensive war. And this was revealed with a particular historical context. I will come to that inshallah quickly. When the treaty of peace was breached by the Meccans, only as a result of the breach of treaty of peace, treaty of Hudaybiyah, which was a 10 years agreement of no war, 10 years no war pact, was done and signed by the Meccans and Medinans by Holy Prophet. And the Meccans breached that treaty of peace within 1 year. This was the historical background when war of defense was allowed for the Muslims as a state. And whenever there was a war of defense, it was fought by the state. It was between state to state. And another point very significant which we need to keep in our mind is that more than 60 wars or fights or military expeditions were taken up, where the Medinan states or the Muslims, they participated in wars, but none of them was in advance. None of them was in offensive. All wars were fought against Medinan state and Prophet of Medina, mostly on the border of Medina, and always Holy Prophet of Islam and his companions and Muslim army was on defensive. The very first war of Badr was fought near Medina. He was on defensive. Second war in second year was fought on the border of Medina. Even now, Uhud is 2 years away from the Holy Mosque, city of downtown of Medina, on the border. Third war of trench was fought on the border of Medina when the Meccan army was about to enter into Medina, and Holy Prophet and companions dug a trench to stop their entry. So all of the wars, Ahzab, were fought on the borders of Medina, even as a self-defense or as a preemptive war in defense, where it was clear the certain tribe was about to attack on Medina. So he fought again for defense as a preemption when it was very clear that they are being under attack. So these are all the provisions which are authorized by UN Charter. Authorized by UN Charter. So this verse was revealed in 7th year of Hijrah, where it stated, you may fight in the way of Allah, the word in the way of Allah is misused, misinterpreted or exploited. When it is said, fi sabilillah, in the way of Allah, it means just cause. Just for good cause. Not for expansionistic objectives. Just for Allah's pleasure, for just cause. And you may fight those allazina yuqatilunakum, those who are already fighting against you, those who have already imposed a war on you. So fight in defense. Wala ta'tadu. Even in war of defense, you are not allowed to transgress the limits. Transgression is prohibited. The transgression means even during the warfare, in the battlefield, during the warfare, you can't kill the women. This is a categorical in Bukhari, Muslim, and hundreds of the books of hadith and traditions. I have mentioned all these references in my books, in my fatwa, verdict, everywhere. No need to refer it again. So women are totally prohibited. You can't kill the women during the warfare. You can't kill the children. You can't kill the kids. You can't kill the priests, pastors, bishops, religious leaders of the Jewish or Christian or other faith. You can't kill the farmers. You can't kill the agriculturists, the farmers, the growers. You can't kill the business community because they provide economy, livelihood to the society. You can't kill the traders. You can't kill diplomats and envoys and ambassadors. These are categorical injunctions of Holy Prophet, not only in one single book, in hundreds of the books and hundreds of ahadith. And the classical literature is full of these references. And the same was the practice of the guided caliphs in the time and afterwards, in the Khilafat Rashida and afterwards. You can't demolish the churches. You can't demolish the houses. You can't burn the trees. You can't kill the animals without except the need of food. Even during warfare in the land of your enemy, you can't demolish, you can't attack on civilian population. You can't attack on non-combatants. These are the rules of lawful warfare, lawful jihad. You can't attack the civil. So if the Holy Prophet and all the four guided caliphs and Quran and the Sunnah of Prophet and all classical authorities, without any dispute in 1400 years, whether they are Hanafis or Malikis or Shafi'i or Hanbalis or Jafaris, there is no dispute on this point. So no one is allowed to attack on non-combatant, even during the warfare. With the state of war, the non-combatant civilian population belonging to a state or country which you are fighting or they are fighting on you. Even then you are not allowed to kill them. So where does we get place for the suicide bombings on civilian population? And the terroristic attacks on the civilian population and attacks on the night times and on twin towers and on embassies and everywhere and kidnapping them and killing them. All these acts are just criminal acts, anti-Islamic acts, anti-Quranic acts. But they have unfortunately hijacked and they create news, and news make the minds. Then the views come on the news and these things make the mindset. So now coming to, so concluding this aspect, fighting in self-defense or fighting against aggression and persecution, another condition is very important, and that is that lawful fighting in defense should be in a just proportion. La ta'tadu, proportionality. You can't transgress the limits. There should be a just proportionality and a moral conduct of war, as I mentioned some of the things. Categorical letters and instructions were issued in written form by Holy Prophet and the Caliphs. But these things are prohibited. You can't do that. And fighting for restoration of peace and harmony. And in spite of the war, lawful warfare, the truce and treaties of peace are to be honored. The Muslims were and are, according to Quran and Sunnah, not allowed to break or to breach the truce or treaty of peace. In any case. These were the main conditions. Now, where this mentality has come from, this mentality, terrorist mentality, I have mentioned in my fatwa, in my edict, and it is very clear, a very significant aspect, that this is not Islamic mentality. This is Kharijite mentality. Of terrorism is just a legacy, a continuity of Kharijite. Who were Kharijites? Briefly speaking, that was the first terrorist group emerged in the history of Islam in the period of fourth guided caliph Sayyidina Ali. The fourth guided caliph during his caliphate, Sayyidina Ali. The first terrorist group, they took up the arms and raised a slogan, La hukma illa lillah. We want the rule of God on the earth. Same is the slogan being raised now. We want to establish a caliphate worldwide. We want to establish the rule of God. We want to establish the command of Quran. The whole democratic world, Western world, Muslim countries, they are following the West. All these are kafirs. So La hukma illa lillah was the slogan given by Kharijites. And there I have compiled a book of hadith on Kharijites. And there are more than 100 traditions of Holy Prophet. And all of them are very authentic, highly authentic. From Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Tirmizi, Nasai, Ibn Majah, all 6 books. And majority of all those hadiths come from Bukhari, Muslim, muttafaq alayh, unanimously agreed upon. No weak rank. Holy Prophet declared these Kharijites that they would be out of the ambit of Islam. He declared clearly they would go out of the ambit of Islam. They would have no link with my ummah and my religion, and I would have no link with them. And Holy Prophet mentioned specific signs of Kharijite terrorists. I would like to mention a few so that the case comes clear in our mind. I will just mention the signs. With all references are in Bukhari and Muslim, and Abu Dawood and Sunan, Tirmizi and Nasai, Sihah Sitta, the 6 highest ranking books of hadith, and particularly Bukhari, Muslim, muttafaq alayh, agreed upon. The first sign given by Holy Prophet about the Kharijite terrorists, and companions fought them. They terminated them. The first war of terror was fought by Islam against terrorists. First war of terror. And it continued in first 2 centuries. In first 2 centuries. But it started in the days of Sayyidina Ali, the fourth guided caliph. So war of terror against the terrorists is a continuity of Islamic teachings, Islamic injunctions. This is what Holy Prophet has commanded. Signs were given. Number 1, Holy Prophet said, they will be young in age. The terrorists, Kharijite terrorists. You can see, whenever you catch them, they are youth. Ahdathul Asnan. It is in Bukhari, Muslim. No need to quote references again. I have explained. 98% all of these signs are from Bukhari and Muslim. Muttafaq alayh. They would be young in age. Ahdathul Asnan are the words of Holy Prophet. Number 2. They will be brainwashed. Sufaha'ul Ahlam. The second term has been used by Holy Prophet. You see how prophecies of Holy Prophet are applied correctly and truly in today's Kharijites. Number 3, Holy Prophet said they will have thick, unkept beards. Bulky, thick, unkept beards. Kathul lehya. They will wear their lower garments high upon their legs. Mushammirul izar. So these terms indicate their extreme religiosity. They will seem extremely religious in their appearance, in the recitation of Quran, in their praying, in their slogans. And Holy Prophet said they will emerge from the east. I'm just giving the text. No need of any interpretation. They will emerge from the east. يَخْرُجُ نَاسٌ مِّن قِبَلِ الْمَشْرِقِ. They will emerge from the east. This is again in Bukhari and Muslim. And then Holy Prophet ﷺ said that the faith will go out of the ambit of faith and Islam. And they will very extreme in practice of religions and slogans of religions. يَتَعَمَّكُونَ وَيَتَشَدَّدُونَ فِي الدِّينِ. Tashaddud, extremism in deen. They will be extremists. The word tashaddud, extremism, has been used in the hadith of Holy Prophet. And Holy Prophet said, they will quote Quran and they will think as if these verses are revealed in their favor. But in reality, these verses would be against them. Evidences against them. Then Holy Prophet said, يَقُولُونَ مِنْ أَحْسَنِ النَّاسِ قَوْلًا يَقُولُونَ مِنْ قَوْلِ خَيْرِ الْبَرِيَّةِ. Their slogans will seem very impressive and very popular or attractive to a common Muslim. Same is happening today. They speak in a way a common Muslim is influenced. Muslim governments are doing nothing. We are being wronged. Governments are not taking care of the Muslim community. So act of aggression is being committed against us in these parts of the world. So we are under obligation. The burden comes on our shoulder to stand up and defend Islam and defend the Muslim community. Very beautiful words, beautiful appealing sentences and slogans. This is what Holy Prophet said. Their slogans, their talk, their speech would appeal common people. They will refer from Quran and Hadith, but the wrong references. And Holy Prophet said, they will speak good things, but they would be the worst of the whole creation. Sharrul khalqi wal khaliqa. Holy Prophet, hum sharrul khalqi wal khaliqa. And Holy Prophet said, then they will kill the people. They will block the ways and roads. They will kill the people. They will murder the people. Their practice would be the bloodshedding. So all these ahadith, and Holy Prophet said, fighting against them, war against their terror. Anybody who participated fight against them would be rewarded on the day of judgment. So war against terror is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the sunnah of the companions and injunction of Islam. So one may say that these Kharijites was a particular group which appeared in the days of the Caliphate, 4th Caliph, and they can say that they continued into first 2 centuries. What is link of the today's terrorist with the Kharijite philosophy or Kharijite existence? So that would be wrong. Holy Prophet said, they will keep on appearing and emerging throughout the history, from time to time, from century to century. And Holy Prophet mentioned, he said, more than 20 times they will keep on. Whenever they will appear, they would be cut off. They would be terminated. Whenever they will appear in a particular time, they would be terminated. And he repeated the words, he said, they will appear and emerge in the history more than 20 times. And the last group of Kharijite terrorists will appear with Antichrist. They will be the followers and they will be the friends and they will become army of Antichrist, Dajjal. So they will keep on emerging in the history till Antichrist appears in the world. It means till the day of judgment, they will continue appearing. So it means this is the textual connection of these terrorists of today. They are not only connected with the Kharijites, no, they are actually Kharijites legacy. A continuity, as Holy Prophet said, that they will keep on emerging and re-emerging from time to time till the appearance of Antichrist. All scholars and jurists and authorities on Aqidah and faith and theology, they have defined the word Al-Khawarij, Kharijite, including Imam Ajuri or Shahristani in Al-Milal wa Nihal, including Allama ibn Taymiyyah, including Imam Nawawi, Imam Asqalani, even up to the scholars of India, old scholars, Allama Shabir Ahmad Usmani. All throughout the history they have been defining who the Khawarij are. They say that the Kharijites are not to be confined with that particular historical group which appeared in the days of Caliphate, the 4th Caliph. No. Ashbahuhum, all those people who believe in ideology of killing the mankind and considering their killing lawful, or those who fight against the governments and take up the arms and rebel against the states, and they consider the bloodshed lawful for them because of their ideology. Those who think that we are here only to enforce the rule and command of God on the earth, and then they kill the people considering licit. All scholars say that all these people are Kharijites. So Kharijite was not only a one group, it is a continuing group till the day of judgment. Now very important thing, coming towards last 2 things briefly. There is another confusion which is normally and frequently used by the terrorists, by the extremist people, and they quote a verse of Holy Quran from Surah Tawbah, chapter 9, verse 5. And the same verse has created some confusions in some Western authors and writers. And they say this is Ayatul Sayf, the verse of sword. All those references, there were 70 to 120 verses banning taking up arms in Meccan period. When the permission of self-defense war came, self-defense and defense against your aggression and all these things, so the extremist people and the terrorists and some of the Western writers who are again confused and have no clarity on the subject, so they say that this verse, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 5, Ayatul Sayf, repealed all verses which were revealed for self-defense. And this was the verse just to kill the non-Muslims. And the terrorists of today, the Kharijite terrorists, they take wrong benefit and they exploit the meanings of this verse, take it out of the context, misinterpret it. So I want to clarify this misunderstanding from both sides, from the Muslim side and from the Western side. So now I am analyzing this verse of sword, Ayatul Sayf. This verse is verse number 5 in chapter 9. So we have to be very clear that we can't segregate or isolate a particular verse, taking out of the context and then interpreting it in a specific situation. No, we have to try to understand every single verse in the full context of Quran and in the historical background in which it was revealed. So this is a verse of chapter 9. This surah is known as Surah Al-Bara, Surah Bara'ah, Surah Tawbah and Surah Bara. This is the chapter of renunciation, absolution. This was revealed in 9th year of Hijrah, 9th year of Holy Prophet's migration. That's why they say this was the last verses, and they have repealed all verses of peace and commandments of treaties and commandments of self-defense. It has become an absolute mandatory on the Muslims, Ma'azallah, astaghfirullah, wrongly saying, just to kill the non. This is biggest silly thing to say. The terrorists are using this word. Biggest silly argument of the terrorists. This whole chapter was revealed in 9th year of migration. And the first word is that the treaty of peace, which was made in Hudaybiyah in 6th of Hijrah, when Holy Prophet went there with 1,500 companions, and he was not allowed to enter Makkah. And this situation ended up on a treaty of peace, a truce for 10 years. No war truce. So there was a specific condition, article in that treaty, written article, that neither Makkah nor Medina would attack on each other, nor their allies. And none of these two states, Makkah or Medina, would be allowed to help any ally in order to attack on Medina or attack on the allies of Medina. The same way, Medina would not be allowed to help their ally in order to attack any ally of Mecca. So this was the comprehensive treaty for 10 years, no war. What happened soon after this treaty took place 1 year before, there were Banu Bakr was a very big tribe among the allies of Meccans. And there was a big tribe, Banu Khuza'ah. He was allies of Medina. So Banu Bakr attacked, breaching the treaty of peace. Banu Bakr attacked on Banu Khuza'ah and committed a grave act of killing, massacre, public massacre, mass killing in Mecca. And Meccans provided them the arms, the money, and they physically participated in this attack and killing. So the Meccans breached the treaty of peace by this attack and a collective act of killing of tribe Banu Khuza'ah. So the treaty of Hudaybiyah was breached, finished. This surah, chapter 9, was revealed in this historical context to announce. Up till this time, the breach of treaty was done by the Meccans. Now Quran is declaring annulment or renunciation, that treaty of peace which was done in Hudaybiyah. under which both sides were bound and responsible not to wage war against each other or against their allies. Now, bara'atum min Allah wa rasulih. God and His Prophet are announcing that that treaty has been renunciated, cancelled. Now there is no liability on both sides. This is an announcement of no liability is remaining after the breach has taken place by the Meccans. This was the whole surah. Number 2. Next verse, important, is Adhanum min Allah wa rasulih. Second verse. I will come to verse number 5. Adhanum min Allah wa rasulih. Then God commanded Holy Prophet, since the treaty has been breached, so there should be no warfare unless it should be properly, publicly announced. So second verse and third verse, they include the public announcement of the breach of treaty. And both parties have come out of the responsibility because of the Meccans' breach of treaty. Second is Adhanum min Allah wa rasulih. So it is announced that the treaty is now no more in existence. After this, the next thing which was done, that is verse number 4. And it is stated, verse number 4, that those who have breached the treaty, but still there are some tribes, they were allies of Meccans. They have not yet breached their allies. So Quran says, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آهَدتُّم مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Their allies, those allies who have not participated in the breach. So the treaty of peace would remain intact and applicable as far as those tribes are concerned, because they are peace-loving tribes. So Medina will honor that treaty for them. This was the third article. Then fourth article was, only those Meccans and allies who initiated the war against Medina and Medinan allies, since they have breached the treaty. So this renunciation and annulment of treaty would affect only their position. They would no more under guarantee because they have breached. Article number 4 and 5, there an ultimatum was given even after breach of trust. Okay, we will not fight against you in spite of your breach. 4-month ultimatum was given. فَإِذَنْ صَلَحَ الْأَشْهُرُ الْحُرُمُ. And in Quran it comes minha arba'atu hurum. 4 months were given to them as ultimatum. In the same way as UNO gives ultimatum to Iraq and many other countries. Those who breach, abuse human rights and violate the treaties of peace. Ultimatum for 4 months was given. And stated, we are giving you the period of 4 months so that you may come back to peace again. You may restore the peace. You may revise your policy. If the treaty of peace is restored and policy of peace is again made, so these 4 months are given for peacemaking, there would be no war. And even after 4 months, if you don't revise the policy and still you prepare attacking on us, then this was verse number 5, the verse of sword, this was revealed. Then you are allowed to fight them as a defensive war. And this was again as a defensive war. And some people among the terrorists, they think, and some misunderstandings in the West, they think as if this verse repealed all verses which were communicated before. That is wrong. This verse did not repeal any verse. This verse just repealed the treaties which were already breached by the Meccans. This was the abrogator or repealer of the treaties between Medina and Mecca. And this was not repealer of the verses. All commandments of Quran remained the same for defensive war, entering into, and this is reported by Abdullah ibn Abbas says the same thing. Ad-Dahaq bin Muzahim says the same thing. Ali bin Abi Talha says the same thing. That even they say this verse of sword elaborates that you cannot take the sword up against those people who have not breached the treaty of peace. So it was still for those who are peace-loving countries and those who are not going to attack you. You can't you can't fight them in your defense. And again, if a war is going on, the same verse tells in verse number 6, if a war is going on and a state of war is restored, even during warfare, it is said, if any person, non-combatant, belonging to a state, which you are fighting, which is fighting you, if that non-combatant comes to you, you are under an obligation to provide peace and security to him. Verse number 6, soon after, immediately after the verse, first verse, 5, said that you are under an obligation to provide safety and security to all non-combatants. So this is the Quranic explicit commandment to provide safety and security to all non-combatants. When and Quran up to verse number 12 again said, only fight them who commit aggression on you, who fight you, who impose war on you, except those people who stick to their agreement of peace, don't fight them. This is verse number 12 of the same chapter. So this was an analysis of the whole subject of the verse of known as verse of sword. And just within 1 minute now, after exploiting all these concepts, the last point, which is being misused and wrongly interpreted by misusing and hijacking the concept of jihad and all these, what do they say? They declare the whole world as Darul Harb, abode of war. And they say we are under obligation to fight them. Irrespective Muslims, non-Muslims, America, US, they say it's abode of war. This is against Quran and Sunnah. The basic relationship between the Muslim countries and non-Muslim countries is not the relationship of war. It is the relationship of neutrality. Whole world, originally, on the basic original relationship with Muslim countries are neutral countries. These are known as abode of neutrality, Darul Hayad, relationship of al-Muhayada, neutrality. If they fight you, they become abode of war. Directly, military to military, not the society. If they enter into a treaty of peace, they become Darul Ahad, abode of treaty. If they establish a friendly relation with you and made an agreement, conciliation of stopping the war, they become Darul Sulh, abode of conciliation. And by this way, today UNO has taken place of all these Quranic commandments because of a multinational treaty through UNO. Every state, every single member of UNO has entered into a multinational, international treaty of peace. UNO has become the treaty maker, peacemaker for the whole world. So every single country, Muslim or non-Muslim, is bound according to the UN Charter. So all countries of the world are become Darul Ahad under UNO. And the injunctions of Quran and Sunnah and Islam of Darul Ahad are same as Darul Islam. And as ending remarks, all jurists, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Tahawi, Imam Sarakhsi, Imam Kasani, and Hanbali and Shafi'i and Maliki scholars, even Imam Shafi'i, they agreed on this idea that the word Darul Islam does not mean the land of Islam or abode of Islam. This is wrong translation. Darul Islam means abode of peace. And every country where the people living there are free, they have security of life, of property, of wealth, of religion, of culture, getting benefit, freedom everywhere, those countries are Darul Islam, means countries of peace. So particularly the Muslims of this world, neither any individual or organization has a right to declare any act as jihad or wage war. Or number two, the whole world under UNO, according to the injunctions of Quran and the Sunnah of Holy Prophets teaching, whole world has become Darul Ahad, similar to Darul Islam, or directly the abode of peace. So nobody has a right to fight against anyone, unless UNO decides or the state decides as a defensive war matter between state to state, and these are the things, and or resistance, collective resistance against an oppression. So these are the basic concepts which were misunderstood, misinterpreted and hijacked by the terrorists. We need to be clear on these concepts. So I have tried to convey my message of peace and message of counter-terrorism and clarification of the concept of Islam and reclaiming the terms back from the terrorist back to Islam. I hope Almighty God will help us in understanding more and more each other. Thank you. Wassalamu.
Thank you very much. If we're here now at the question and answer session, so if you can just align yourself to, we have a mic on the left side and on the right side, and when you have a question, if you could just identify yourself, and if you have an affiliation, that would be helpful too. We'll start with my left or your right first.
Yes, thank you very much, Shaykh. That was very inspirational. I'm Steve Sawmill. I coordinate an interfaith group in the D.C. area. And I'd like to ask you a two-part question. In Israel-Palestine, the Palestinians have no state, no recognized state. Yet they're occupied, and I'm wondering what your advice to Palestinians would be who feel so oppressed. What recourse do they have? Because from your definition, they do not have recourse to jihad. Secondly, in the New York Times today, it's reported that the Palestinian negotiator, Erekat, is saying that with the settlement renewal, that he feels they should go to the United Nations to be recognized as a state, the Palestinians. Yet this article also says that the Arab states, America and the Arab states, advise against doing that. And I'd like to know your opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Answering the second question first, I will endorse this recommendation that they should go to United Nations, to be recognized by the state, by United Nations as a state, so that they may get the lawful rights and privileges according to the United Nations charters. Secondly, even if there is no state, for example, to exercise the right of jihad in the form of self-defense, even then what is happening? Even then, in any case, the worst comes to worst. No one is allowed to commit suicide bombing against civilian population, whether they are Israelites or they are Americans, they are British or they are Europeans. Nobody is allowed to commit suicide bombing on non-combatant civilians. Nobody is allowed to commit terroristic acts on civilian population, because this act was prohibited even during warfare, as I already explained. So the acts which were being taken up and given the name of jihad itself, they are crimes according to Islamic teachings. They should raise their voice politically, peacefully. They should use the peaceful, political, constitutional, international means and ways through the Arab states, Islamic State, through the through the UNO, and whatever is possible they can do. But if there are, for example, two states, when Israel or any other state, neighboring state, fight with each other, so militaries have always right to fight each other or whatever they do on the battlefields. Not the organizations, they are not allowed. They can get recruited in the army. They can get recruited in the military properly, and they should fight as military men against the militaries in the battlefield. But killing the Jewish community or killing the Christian community or killing the Muslim community or the human communities, those who are non-combatants and those who are civilians, this is absolutely not allowed in any circumstance. Thank you.
But the lawful defense, not killing of non-combatants, but lawful defense. You're saying Palestinians could join an army? What are you saying about specifically?
No, if they want to do, they would have become a proper part of the army, joined and proper part of an army, so that they may, as a military, proper military as recruitment, so that they may do whatever they want to do in a proper, according to a state. If state announces a war, then they would be a part of the army of a particular state, if certain state allows. And if they want to do something on their own, so this is not allowed, then they have to act upon the conduct of Prophet, peace be upon him, which he adopted in the first 14 years of Mecca. Same situation was there. There were many Muslims in Mecca who did not migrate along with him to Medina. They were inhabitants in Mecca. And as I mentioned, they were being killed. There were acts of persecution and cruelty and killings were being committed against them. Everything was being done. Quran mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, فَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ الَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا أَخْرِجْنَا مِنْ هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةِ ظَالِمِ أَهْلُهَا. The whole situation has been prescribed in Surah An-Nisa. But even these 13 days, everything was being done. But none of the companions took arm against the civilian population of Mecca. Neither Holy Prophet allowed any group to go and take revenge because they are killing our Muslim brothers in Mecca. So this step was taken as a self-defense or against the aggression by the state. Now the situation is changed since an international treaty has been done through UNO. The best way is to come politically, to use their constitutional right to talk of human rights, come to UNO and develop their political pressure as a community through the states, through the world voice. They should bring their voice up so that United Nations, through the proper constitutional international law means, they should take certain steps. In any case, whatever happens, worst comes to us, no organization or group is allowed to take up arms and kill the non-combatants or civilians.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Qamar. Shaykh al-Islam, I've had the privilege of listening to you for the third time this time, so I'm going to, I have two questions which are interlinked. But before I mention the questions, let me compliment you on this a combination of this articulation which is very spirited, combined with the logic which is irrefutable. I think that combination is rare, and please accept my heartfelt compliments for that.
Thank you very much.
My question is, when you lay down the principles, the conditions under which defensive warfare can be conducted, there are very high principles involved. Apart from the very obvious of not killing women, children, old men, and so forth, and priests and protecting churches and so forth, they're also protecting the environment, as I hear you, trees, animals, and so forth. One, as a matter of curiosity, to what extent did the Geneva Convention and the new charters actually derive from some of the Islamic principles as laid out in the Quran 1400 years ago? Number one. My second question, which is linked to this, is about the Kharijites. It's extremely intriguing because the projection, or the proclamation that this will occur again and again until the Antichrist comes along, and the definitions given and the kind of people they're going to be seems to be pretty much identical to what's going on today. Now, I am a retired director of operations of the World Bank, so my own bent is towards the development side rather than the destructive side of reconciliation, if you like. Something which all parties talk about, but I think very insufficient action is taken in that regard. Is there any injunction, given the fact that a lot of the recruitment, the Taliban and the other people, is on the basis of people coming from marginal areas, poverty, lack of voice, and so forth, deprived of something or the other, under which they turn towards these extreme practices of the Kharijites? Is there something in the Quran which says how we can change the hearts and minds before these people actually make the change to these directions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, answering your second question first, because I forgot what your first question was. Then when I finish the answer, then I'll ask again briefly. So, just you can give me a hint. So there is definitely a positive injunction in Holy Quran and in Prophet Sunnah to change their hearts and minds so that they may get rid of these criminalistic or terroristic activities, and they may think toward the developmental aspect to win their hearts. The Quranic verse which refers to mu'allafatul qulub, the verse of sadaqat, the verse of charity, a specific portion was fixed for winning the hearts of the people so that their mindset is changed. Mu'allafatul qulub, it continued. So the money was spent on them to take them away from poverty, and the Baitul Mal, it was ordained by the Holy Prophet and the Caliphate that Baitul Mal was open for Jews and non-Muslim and Christians so that they also get the economic support. Not only the Muslims. Muslims, of course, definitely, but even non-Muslims, so that they are supported socially and economically. They are upgraded. Their economic deadlock is resolved. They feel happy in a society, respectable place. They can gain respectable place. And that's why how through the social reforms, educating them, providing them economic necessities, upgrading them, their status. This is how you change their mindset and win their hearts. This is the Quran. And same was the practice of Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. You know, even in those days when Makkah was at war, but Makkah was not in the state of treaty, it was in state of war, and always planning fights and wars against Medina. Even in those days, once there was a big qahat, a famine, very big, and it was reported to Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. Holy Prophet ﷺ, 2 events. He sent a lot of gold and coins and gold to Mecca and ordered Abu Sufyan to distribute this among the poor. And he is distributing this among the poor of a state at war. And second time, he sent the money and to ask Abu Sufyan and one another leader of Mecca. And he refused to receive, and Abu Sufyan received it. And they distributed it among the poor of Meccans, non-believers and mushrikeen Meccans. They were distributed. Third time again the same thing happened, and Abu Sufyan came to Holy Prophet ﷺ, and he raised his hands and made supplication to Almighty Allah, so that Almighty Allah brings rains, gives rains to them and provide them economic prosperity. So the best way is to provide economic prosperity, to provide them education, to take them out of the poverty, to remove poverty alleviation. Act of charity was done for them. So these things are necessarily required, and these are the answers for today too. One is the military way of terminating them. But the other way is this, through social reform, providing them facilities. This was what happened in War of Afghanistan initially, when it was known as jihad. When the Afghans were fighting against the Russian occupation. After 10, 11 years war, when everything was finished and Russia was defeated, everybody who put all these people in Afghan war, they came back. And these people who are trained for 14 years to fight Russia, they were left on their own. So there were no infrastructure, no education, no economic support, no social support. US came back, and Saudi Arabia came back, and Pakistan came back. And I say all these 3 great muftis of the world who declared jihad, the war of Afghanistan, the US, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, all together, and many countries. Of course, the Afghans were fighting the war of defense, war of independence. But when it was fought, everybody, the mistake committed by US and all other partners of the Western countries and Muslim countries together was everybody left Afghanistan. And those people were left, nothing to do. They were neither engineers, nor doctors, no infrastructure, no money, no jobs, nothing. Finally, what were they supposed to become? Finally, they were just supposed to become terrorists. They took up arms and started fighting in Kashmir. When those border was blocked for them, then they started fighting in Pakistan. They became sectarian terrorists. And when sectarian terrorism was little bit curtailed, then they started fighting in those particular areas where up till today the war of terror is going on. So we have seen the results of not attending them, providing them social things. And so this is the way given by Quran and the Sunnah of Holy Prophet. What was your first answer?
It's about the UN Charter, the Geneva Convention.
Yes. I would say whatever UN Charter has given on the subject of war and peacemaking, and Geneva Convention, whatever it has been given on the US, on the peacemaking, even the Security Council resolutions, when they were passed in 1990, then 1992, in case of Kosovo, when there was permission was given for collective interference against the abuse of human rights. All these developments up till today on the subject of war and peacemaking, to me, as a humble student of Islam and classical sciences and Islamic law, they are absolutely in consonance with Quranic teachings and Islamic teachings. I don't find any conflict in UN Charter and Geneva Convention. I won't say like this that they have derived this from Quran and Sunnah. No, this would be not fair to say. But this is a development of collective conscience of humanity, collective conscience of the countries. They keep on. Whole world was in the state of war. There were centuries. Not only Muslim world, the Christian world was also. The issues were resolved through wars. This was the common international practice. Even the pagan society up till the medieval period, the issues, the conflicts were resolved through wars and fights. But the time realized before the First World War, at the First World War and the the League of Nations, that a time has come that we should try to resolve the disputes through peacemaking efforts and through dialogue and through communication. And United Nations finally came into existence. So this is a collective development of communities. But this is a chance that whatever is the result of collective development of communities is the same what was injunction given, what was educated and what was constructed, what was instructed and what was revealed by Quran and Holy Prophet 1400 years before. There's no conflict between the two.
Thank you. Yes, you have a question.
Thank you. My name is Irfan Malik. I'm with Pakistan American Public Affairs Committee. And I want to thank Shaykh for coming, visiting us in Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
And I pray and hope you can visit us more often.
Thank you.
I first came to know of your work when Christiana Manpur interviewed you, and ever since, I've been following your work, and I hope and pray that they are more like you. My question is radicalization of the youth. I think that's really the area of concern for Muslim Americans over here, and probably for Muslims living in Europe as well. And I wanted to know if your organization, Minhajul Quran, or any other organization, have programs for the youth where we can go or have messages that can be given to the youth through local imams, through their parents, or through the community leaders. And if any of these programs either exist in USA or in Europe or in Lahore, where you have your facility.
Thank you very much. It's a very important question, please. As far as other organizations are concerned, you can find out their activities, what kind of programs they are running. They would be better in giving the answer and details. As far as the Minhajul Quran organization, our organization is concerned, we have programmed. And there is multi-dimensional programs going on de-radicalization. One of the major event, part of the regular program, ongoing program, is Al-Hidayah, which takes place every year in England, in Warwick University. And next coming year in September, there is going to be a gathering of about 15 to 20,000 youth in London, Wembley Hall. Probably anywhere in some day in September, you will know through the internet. Just on de-radicalization. And I arrange a camp for the youth, of 4 days camp. I stay there day and night and deliver my lectures 8 hours a day. 4 hours with question answer in the morning, 4 hours with question answer in the evening, and then every single day 2 to 3 scholars for their talks. They are also invited from Arab world and English world. So this is a 4-day continuous camp. One thing. Then through literature, we are trying to de-radicalize the youth. This is a very big de-radicalization camp. I think youth are, they will feel, when they come only they can feel what they are receiving from here. Second big step which we have taken, that is an establishing of a university. We have finished the, you can say, dichotomy of the religious and secular education according to the old Islamic educational system. We have abolished madrasa systems. We have taken the steps. Although I have established by the grace of God one university which is chartered by the government of Pakistan, includes all disciplines, religious, spiritual, social sciences and human sciences, chemistry and economics and physics and mathematics and managerial sciences and computer sciences, all relevant subjects as other universities with full-fledged disciplines you find. And there we are concentrating on the religious sciences and spiritual sciences too as a combined discipline. The youth, they get up for tahajjud. They live with wudu, with ablution. They have a very specific moral code of conduct. And then they have their training camps for youth, male and for females. Sometimes 1 week camp we organize in Pakistan and in other countries too. Sometimes 15 days camp, sometimes 1 month camp, just to de-radicalize youth and spiritualize the youth. When I talk of de-radicalization, I talk on 3 sides: intellectual aspect, the practical aspect, and spiritual aspect. So we work on all 3 dimensions. So annually there is another program of itikaf under Minhajul Quran, where 50 to 60,000 Muslims, and 90% or 80% out of them are youth. 50, 60,000 Muslims stay with me for 10 days and night in itikaf, last 10 days of Ramadan. And I deliver my training speech after Salatul Taraweeh to Tahajjud 5 to 6 hours every night. Then there is a 24-hour schedule, full-fledged schedule for 10 days. They get education, they get properly motivated, then they go with this message out there. In the same way, we have established halaqat of zikr, halaqat of fikr, and halaqat of salutations, durood, so that we may spiritualize the people and take them away from extremistic tendencies. Then we have programs of literature, dozens and many books on this kind of subject. As I mentioned, I've written Khilafah and Democracy, small chapters and a big book, in the way ijtihad, perception and reality, this fatwa, human rights, non-Muslim rights. Then we have established a big program of interfaith dialogue, where I mentioned, I think here, or in the office, I think.
Yes.
Where the Christians, delegates come every year to Minhajul Quran and break their fast. And we arrange dinner for them in the last fast of their religion. And our mosque is open for the Christian delegates to pray according to worship according to their faith. So we have set a model. And we have a close interaction between our mosques, Minhajul Quran and centers, and churches and temples. They come to us, our people go there, and we have joint sessions and joint walks and joint seminars. There are many other, and particularly for here, we have online programs. Online program of teaching of Quran and teaching of Islamic studies, and there is a program, online scholar online. I think it is weekly. Weekly scholar online. So the people can join. They are arranging in Texas, in various states of the US. So people sit there and they give the subjects whatever they need. And with full preparation, one scholar, either from Pakistan or from England or from other countries, they deliver their talks and question answers to educate the people. So according to the timings of those countries, 24-hour various programs are running online. So alhamdulillah, there are quite a few dozens of very humble efforts which we are trying to do to de-radicalize the youth. I hope, inshallah, our humble efforts and efforts of all other organizations and people will bring good results.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any plan to introduce these programs in USA, especially the youth camps? And
it can be done. The youth camps can be done if some people organize. So the youth camp can be done in USA. It can be done 3 days youth camp if some people come out and they take responsibility of organizing. So the same kind of camp for 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 youth can be arranged in US too. It will be good. De-radicalization camp in US better.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum.
First, let me thank you for this exceedingly thoughtful and informative discussion here today. I think it's been helpful for everyone here in the room. My name is David Hunsaker, and I'm from United States Agency for International Development, and I work in the Office of Conflict Management and Mitigation there. And my question is focused on the substance of what you presented here today, and what you present in the 600-page fatwa demonstrates the unanimity with which mainstream Islamic scholars and the mainstream Islamic community has viewed the use of violence, its limits, and when it's permissible, when it's not permissible. And given this unanimity over 1,400 years in terms of how these things have been understood, what is it today that has allowed for these concepts to be hijacked? And what needs to be done beyond simply issuing a fatwa that basically draws from all of these traditions? I mean, looking through your fatwa, I see that you're not just drawing on one tradition, you're drawing on the interpretations of the Hadith scholars, you're not just Hanafi scholars, Shafi'i scholars, others. Yeah. And what needs to be done to take this a step further to empower scholars to get this message that has been agreed upon for so long out to a broader audience and be more broadly implemented in order to take back the dialogue.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you. The actual text of fatwa has yet to come for you to study. Whatever you have seen, that is the brief summary.
I looked briefly at the Urdu
The
version,
Urdu one, the
but
Arabic
I
text.
understand the Arabic enough that I
Yes,
can
Arabic
pick out
text.
the pieces.
But this is under print. It is under print, and I hope next month the whole full English text of fatwa would be in your hands, and the Arabic text will also be, inshallah, in your hands the next 2 months. I agree with your analysis. The only problem is what we are supposed to do, that the activists, the terrorists, extremists, the radicals, they are always active. That's why they are activists. And the mainstream Islam, the Muslim scholars, they are always silent because they are peaceful. And the peace is never active. It remains inactive, silent, dormant. So the majority of Muslim Ummah, they have isolated themselves from ongoing problems of the society. We need to activate them so that their voice becomes vocal, their voice becomes loud, they are heard, and they should stand up collectively and actively to condemn that all these activities being done by a very handful of terrorist people, that is not Islam, which, as I have explained and the other authorities have been saying, and scholars, they need to be vocal and loud. Major role, I have been saying the same thing for the last 30 years, but I was also unheard. This is not a new thing which I have said. I wrote more than 15 books on these subjects from early 19 to last year. 5, 6, 7 books on human rights, different non-Muslim rights, children rights, women rights, common human rights, animal rights on subjects, non-violence, interfaith harmony, all these things. Then as I mentioned, Khilafah and democracy, and these subjects. But I was also unheard. This was just fortunate that when I issued this fatwa, maybe because of this term or a very clear-cut, categorical, absolute condemnation of terrorism, without any if and but, and without conditionality, it was picked up, and the whole Western media received it very nicely, and I am thankful for that, because they made it popular, and this voice then approached everywhere, and people started thinking, no, whatever we have been listening from that side, that is not Islam, there is something else. So the only basic thing is we have to propagate. Thousands of websites are being run by activists, radicals, terrorists and extremists. And there may be very few websites being run by the mainstream Muslim scholars talking of peace, moderation, compassion, mercy, love, brotherhood and integration. So we have to run more and more websites so that this voice be heard. These messages are conveyed. So we have, alhamdulillah, put everything on the websites. We are making small 10-minute shorts of talks and speech. We are arranging seminars. We are arranging workshops on these subjects. So we need workshops on these subjects. We need more integration. We need more propagation. We need to be more active and to make this voice be heard all over the world, so that the Western and Eastern people may understand that certain person or certain organization, they are not neither authorities nor representatives of Islam. This is Islam. And they hijack these terms because they create news and views. Nuisance. Nuisance always create news. And peaceful people, since they remain silent, they never create news. So you have to speak loudly, speak up loudly, so that your voice is heard everywhere and you are properly represented. The only way is being active. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have a lot from you, and we are just a little before 4 o'clock. There's one question I have before we break, which is within your fatwa. There's a question of whether you're calling the Khawarij, the contemporary terrorists, kufr, unbelievers.
Yes. This is.
Are you calling them non-Muslims, disbelievers, or transgressors. Could you elaborate that? Because this is a bone of contention from those who read this fatwa in original Urdu, and then the abridged version in English has tried to do some justice. But are you calling the contemporary terrorist and all those organizations that we identify, Al-Qaeda, Lashkar, Taliban, so forth, and all these other, are you saying they are disbelievers or non-Muslims? What is their status regarding your fatwa?
This is very important question, very interesting.
I saved it for last.
I'm thankful to you that you put this question to me. The thing is that we have to understand this topic jurisprudentially and exegetically, according to the exegetical principles of Quran and jurisprudential principles of Islamic law. What I have said in this fatwa and what I am saying, what I consider is that killing of human beings, it possesses two kinds of status. This act possesses two kinds of status or two kinds of position. There are two positions. One is just an act of killing. There are many murderers who kill any innocent people out of anger. The tribes, the people, the families, they kill by mistake, they kill by unintentionally, they kill intentionally. So just an act of killing. First of all, Quran says, Man qatala nafsan bighayri nafsin wa fasadin fil ard, faka'annama qatala an-nasa jamiya. If anybody kills any person, no qualification of being Muslim, no condition. Any person, may be Muslim or non-Muslim. The word nafsan means any person, Muslim or non-Muslim. If anybody kills him or her, then he will be considered as if he has killed the whole of humanity. This is the first basic article from which I am deriving. Now, the act of killing has two positions, legally speaking. One is just an act of killing, without any particular ideology or theology. So this act of killing is known as haram, forbidden. So any killer, he is a criminal, he is committing a haram act, a forbidden act. Second position of act of killing is under a particular ideology. To kill a person, or to kill a community, or to kill a group of persons, either by suicide bombings or by terroristic attack in any way. To kill certain people, Muslim or non-Muslim, with an intention, with a faith, with an ideology that this killing is lawful. The first killer is killing a man, but he thinks that he knows that he is committing a crime. That is haram, unlawful, forbidden. But second category is that if somebody or some people do the same act of killing with an ideology that this act is lawful, or we are under an obligation to kill them, or this act of killing would take us to heavens instead of taking us to hellfire. We are going to heaven and getting 70 virgins. And if we are killed in suicide bombing, then we are martyrs. So with this whole mindset and ideology, if somebody kills, he becomes kafir.
A non-believer.
He becomes a disbeliever.
Disbeliever.
He becomes a disbeliever. So this is not only stated by me, this is an agreed upon exegetical and jurisprudential principles quoted by the scholars and all exegetical specialists. And the first reference which I will quote here, I mentioned, is Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, the Imam of Ahlul Sunnah in 3rd century, who organized and compiled the science of Aqidah, science of theology. He has categorically written in his Ta'wilatu Ahlul Sunnah, in his book of Tafsir, that man istahalla dima al-nas, or dima al-muslimin, or dima al-nas, the one who istihlalud dima, bloodshed is one thing, and bloodshed and considering it that it is halal, it is permissible or obligatory, he said, faqad kafara. He becomes a disbeliever. Since the Kharijites, what would we say? A very specific term which we would follow the term used by Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. Holy Prophet ﷺ did not say that those Kharijites, because of these acts, they would become kafir. He didn't use the word kafir. He said, يَمْرُكُونَ مِنَ الدِّينِ كَمَا يَمْرُكُ السَّهْمُ مِنَ الرَّمِيَّةِ. They said they will go out of the ambit of Islam. They will go out of the ambit, out of the cycle of Islam. They will go out of my ummah. So they would have no link with Islam and no link with my ummah. And they would be liable to death punishment. And the people who will terminate them and fight them, those terrorists, he will get the reward as if he fought the nation of Ad and Samud. So here, we will use the term we used by Holy Prophet, that they are out of the ambit of Islam. They are not Muslims. We would say they are not Muslims. They are out of the ambit of Islam. We will use the terms used by Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the fourth aspect, there were two views among the jurists and muhaddiseen and scholars. Two views. I have given the full summary here. Some scholars, all of the scholars and jurists agree upon the termination or the capital punishment or termination of the Kharijite terrorists. None of them has given any degree less than capital punishment for a terrorist, Kharijite terrorist. This is a unanimous in all schools of law and muhaddiseen and mufassirin, the specialist authorities of hadith and authorities of tafsir, exegesis. But there were two views. What would we say them? Whether they would be kafirs or they would be known as bughat, the rebels. Although they are liable to be terminated. But what would be their title? Majority of Islamic scholars, including Imam Bukhari and Imam Ajuri and Qazi Iyaz and Imam Nawawi and Imam Asqalani and Imam Ghazali, all these scholars up till present time, majority, overwhelming majority, they have been declaring their act kufr. And there were very few scholars among the muhaddiseen and very few scholars who have declared them bughat, rebels. Instead of saying them disbelievers, they said they are liable to be death punishment and to be terminated, but their title, technical title would be like bughat, they are rebels. Like rebels are liable to be terminated, liable to be fought with. That's why they would be technically known as rebels, al-bughat. And majority have been saying that they go out of the ambit of Islam and they have declared their act as kufr. But as community, they are not said that they are kuffar. Their act is kufr and the act is act of disbelief and they become disbelievers according to the commandments of Holy Prophet. But as community, we say they are not Muslims. These are the limitations combining both views. But majority go to their kufr. Very few scholars say them the bughat and rebels.
Thank you. Oh, there's a follow-up? Okay. It's a follow-up to the final question. Can you come use the microphone so we can hear you appropriately? Thank you.
Thank you for that very important clarification.
Thank you.
And I thank you for your prior remarks. In the Western media, the characterization of the group of terrorists that you describe is usually Islamic extremists. It still makes it sound as though they are in the ambit of the Prophet's community.
Yes.
So if you were to use English words to describe such people, and for our own use in describing them, what would your recommendation be? My thought has been to say that they are pseudo-Islamists. They are pretend or fake Muslims. But
I agree with your view. I won't say them Islamists. This is a wrong term. And this term legitimizes their activity.
Right.
Saying them Islamists or Islamic terrorists, this legitimizes them. And this provides them an Islamic foundation, an Islamic legitimacy. The word Islam, in any form, Islamic or Islamist, should be removed from them. The terrorists have no religion. They should be just known as terrorists, criminals. killers, enemies of humankind. So the word terrorist is more than enough. When you bracket it with Islamist or Islamic, they gain many sympathies from lot of youth who are accessible to be radicalized. So they gain lot of sympathizers. Then they become jihadis. So this is the Western media, by giving the term Islamist, connecting this term to them. In fact, this helps them, provides them strength. So I think this word Islam should be totally removed from them. As if there is any terrorist in India, we never say Hindu terrorist. If there is anyone in Christian world, we never say Christian terrorist. We never say Jewish terrorist. Because Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, all religions, Bible, Holy Quran, and no religion, no holy book teaches extremism or terrorism. Every religion has come here for peace. So we have to remove every kind of religious title with them. No connection of Islamist and Islamic, just terrorists, so that they may be known as criminals, unanimously known as criminals for the whole of mankind. And terrorist is sufficient. This is my recommendation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.